Welcome to the RaceGuru Thunder Hour. I'm your co-host, Rich. Where are we going, Maletto? Don't follow me on Twitter. And joined with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy behind the curtain for all the streams and podcasts at fantasyguru.com, Sean Engel, who you can follow on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Sean E247. That's SEANE 247. Sean, welcome to RaceGuru Thunder Hour. I guess we're welcoming everybody else here. And quick shout out to the Elite Plus network that allows us to do this podcast and fantasyguru.com. So please do us a favor, hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube, head over to fantasyguru.com, click subscribe at the top, check out all the different packages. And I'll be frank, Sean, I cannot keep up with the different discounts and things we got going on right now. So I'm not even going to pretend to try. I know there's special pricing all over the place. The MVP package where you can get all of our content that's 12 months out of the year. We've got the football packages. There's numerous football packages available. I think the baseball package is still discounted. I forgot to mention with the MVP, you get basically everything except for football and baseball. So I'm not even pretend to get it right. If you see a whole bunch of different packages, you don't know what you want, email us at support@fantasyguru.com. Tell them what you're looking for, what you can afford. Don't overspend. But you are getting a premium quality product, so keep that in mind. But they'll help you out. They'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, you got that right there. There's a lot of packages because there's a lot of sports going on over at fantasyguru.com. A lot of sports coverage happening, whether it's prepping up for NFL season. We got the NFL packages and the draft guide all for that, which is currently ongoing. And that's a great value right there. You got the MLB guide where you can see content from Ray Flowers and get access to the MLB Discord where he's over there posting pics along with Brett Wojo and the others. And then you got the MVP package, which, yeah, that's everything but the football and baseball. You really did cover it pretty good despite not knowing how much everything is. You got the basic just the content right there. And it's
There's a lot. And I challenge you, you cannot consume all of the content on fantasyguru.com. It is not possible. It would take a full-time job.
Yeah, very much so. And that's not even including the Discord access too, which that's something Fantasy Guru is very proud of. So there you go.
Well, Sean, we had a week of racing, and I'm going to do a little bit of a pat on the back. My overview article pretty much nailed it. I mean, what I said would likely happen, what happens pretty consistently is exactly what played out, right? Fuel mileage race is what we got. I don't know why Pocono and Michigan, doesn't matter if it's 400 or 500 miles, those two tracks always turn into fuel mileage. And honestly, the fans griping about, running half speed. You don't seem to mind when they run half speed at Daytona and Talladega. I mean, you gripe a little bit, but you all talk about it's the greatest racing ever. So I liked it because we had a couple of different strategies coming into play. That's why I like fuel mileage. I mean, if Hocevar doesn't blow the tire, what happens? I mean, we assume he comes down for pit road at some point, but Byron couldn't save. Larson couldn't save, right? So,
well, Larson made it all the way. He just fell back a few positions because others were passing him.
That's right, because he was saving so much, right? So, I mean, and here again, those got to your point, those other drivers passed him up. Like, I enjoy seeing different strategies played. I enjoy seeing teams try different things to try to get the wins. I enjoy that stuff. Whether they were only at 50% for the last 2 laps, I don't care. I really don't. I want to watch a race play out the way it's meant to play out.
And play out, it certainly did, because we saw drivers trying to outlast the fuel mileage right there towards the end. Hocevar, about that point with Carson Hocevar, they were saying before he really started saving fuel, he was about 4 laps short of making it all the way. So he was going to be cutting it close. And even if he did try saving fuel, I don't think he was going to get there. I think he was going to be just shy. And really, he was running in the first spot where you burn more fuel up. So that was also not going to help his case either.
I think to your point, if Byron couldn't draft and save fuel to get to the end, I don't know how anyone in front of him was going to do that, right? I mean, and Hamlin just you had him as your top pick, Sean. So pat on the back for you. We both said for the last 2 weeks he's the guy we think is the guy to beat. This week, probably not. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit.
I'm just going to flat out say that even if Hamlin is racing or not this week, more on that later, that's a tease. He's not going to be a driver that I'm going to be really on that much this week regardless.
If he was, I'd be all in at his price, man. I mean, people forgot he won the Xfinity race down here.
Yeah, that's very true, as did another Cup driver that's also in the field this week too.
Yep. So, and that's the only racing we've had. And granted, that was back in 2000. Hamlin won, I think, in 2007, I believe.
And then Busch won in 08. There were 2 other races before then, but the other 2 drivers that won are not racing in the Cup Series this week.
Was it Truex, and who was the other one? Was it Harvick?
It was not Harvick. Harvick came close, but he didn't win. It was actually Juan Pablo.
Wow, that's who it was. Juan Pablo. That's right. So anyway, I we'll get to Hamlin later because the pricing and maybe the story plays into that, but I was kind of floored with that considering it's not like he's terrible at all road courses, but no, he would not be neither of our favorites to pick. His price point might be a little different for DFS, but for a win, no, I'm with you, Sean. And look, there's a lot that goes into this race down there. You and I talked about that off air yesterday, really, and I'm still baffled by that, but we can touch on that later.
Oh, totally. We still got a little bit more to cover regarding Michigan for sure, because there were a lot of storylines. I know we touched on Hamlin a little bit, and he ended up winning. Yeah, it was awesome to call Hamlin in order to win, because really it had kind of the ingredients in order to be kind of like a Hamlin race in a sense, where, you know, Hamlin, he was good on the longer runs. The numbers were good for him in practice, and he qualified just high enough. And I just knew that in practice, even though the conditions were different, overall, he did have a better car than the 2 that he was starting behind to begin the race with Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch right there. And really, I mean, Briscoe, you look at him this year, he's been kind of a common theme of just qualifying really well, but not being able to stay there.
And see, my DFS lineup crashed and burned because I was willing to gamble on Briscoe. I thought he would be low owned, giving all of that stuff. And when I was going through the data, man, did Martin Truex name just come up all the time for that Michigan race. Top 10s, top 5s, wins, speeds, the whole deal. And I was like, you know what? The 19 car keeps kind of inching there. Maybe this is the opportunity. Chase is not one to typically overdrive. You know, just like what we liked with Hamlin, we knew he'd take care of the tires. We knew regarding Hamlin, we knew he could manage his fuel. And I thought Briscoe could figure that out a little bit. That's kind of a little bit, he's not really a guy that's overly aggressive and pushing things too far. And wow, did he hurt me, Sean. The rest of the drivers, yeah, I bit the bullet on Hocevar. I don't regret that. I do regret trying to go after the low ownership angle with Briscoe. I really thought they would have some better race speed, but that has been a real common theme with the 19 this year. I mean, practice time's okay, pretty decent. Shows so well in qualifying, and then in race trim, I don't know if it's they get back in the traffic, they can't adjust with the car. I don't know, but I mean, at one point, Briscoe was with a third of the race to go, was back in the 30s. And I know some of that was due to pit and some struggles with the getting the wheel on. And he did get back up into the top 10 at one point, but
if you were to ask me, I think a common theme, especially because this has also been happening even when Truex was in that car like the last year or two, is that I think they're just not keeping up with the adjustments very well with that team. They fire off good, but they just can't seem to keep it up with the track.
And you know, you hit the nail on the head with Truex. That's so spot on with Truex. The last 2 years, how many times did we see him win a stage 1, run up front, and yet the poor man didn't even get a victory?
Nah. He'd even have a couple of races where he'd lead a bunch of laps. Really, when I think of Truex, when he had probably his best opportunity to win, it was probably when there was the first Richmond race last year where he dominated most of that race, but essentially lost it in pit road towards, hey, guess who? Denny Hamlin.
Well, and see, with the way Hamlin's car showed in practice and Briscoe being a teammate, I thought there would be some, like I said, I was wrong. I don't hate the gamble because I felt like there was some logic behind it. And I knew most people would be like, yeah, I'm staying away. It's a big risk. I wanted to take that risk. I was hoping we'd get Briscoe to be top 5, top 6 finisher, and it would look brilliant, right? But
yeah.
didn't happen.
Nah, unfortunately, it's just been a theme for Briscoe this year. There's been very few races where that 19 team has just been able to at least still sniff the top 10 after the first stage.
You know, let me ask you this. So what does that say for Hamlin and Bell? Because they are clearly, consistently faster than the 19 and the 54. I mean, we're seeing the 54 improve, and there's some youth development there.
And
But
I do want to say this about Ty Gibbs while you brought him up here. I called it last week that this was going to be the week where Ty Gibbs was going to get his mojo back, and he did just that with his best finish of the year. Called it right here 1 week ago. He finished third.
Hey, I've been saying it's coming. I just, I did not push him this week. You hammered it. We expected this to some degree. You and I have been talking about it, and it's a big adjustment to these cars. And honestly, I mean, his name's going to come up a lot today too, talking about this upcoming week because of road course history and some of the other things. But until this race, though, Ty Gibbs, just like the 19, has fired off good for the last month or so, and then disappears by mid-race. I mean, 2-3 weeks ago when I was pushing him as that top 10 bet, I really felt really good after stage 1. And then by the time we got to the end of stage 2, already waved the white flag on it. I was out. I mean, it was clearly not working.
Yeah, and that's just been the thing with Ty Gibbs. Him and his team, I feel like overall part of it has to do with the fact that they're still feeling out the new crew chief and the new car setups and everything.
That's fair.
With that. But I do also think, too, that Ty, he's just trying to get himself focused and get his groove back and try to get consistent. Because when circumstances go right for Ty Gibbs, we know he's talented and he can finish well. It just hasn't been there.
He dominated when he was in trucks. He dominated when he was in Xfinity. Like everywhere up to this point, Ty Gibbs has done nothing but absolutely perform. I mean, you and I, 3 years ago, talked about, I can't wait for it's Hyman, Gibbs, and Cup. Like, they two hate each other. They were teammates, hated each other. I would love to see Hyman, Gibbs, and Cup. And now you mix in the youth movement with Carson Hocevar. I think there's something to be said for Noah Gragson. I think someone like Sam Mayer is going to deserve an opportunity sooner than later coming up out of Xfinity. And there's a few Xfinity drivers that we're both excited about, that we're hoping to see kind of come into play. I mean, and that's not even addressing the real youth and, Corey Day and Connor Zillich and, which I did get to meet Corey Day there at the race.
Yeah, that's right. When I was off holding the fort down for this show last week, you were off over there watching the High Limit Racing Series, and then going out of there and meeting Corey Day and saying hello to one of your favorites there, Kyle Larson again.
Larson, yep. Got a picture with Rico. Got a picture with Brad Sweet. It was a good time. I did thank Corey Day for helping us make some money on NASCAR because we've had a couple of really good paydays when we put him in the lineup. So yeah, so he kind of chuckled at that. He probably didn't quite get what I was saying, but I told him, I said, you got a bright future, man. So I'm excited to see it. And I think Larson was playing with Rico a little bit in that race, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Although if you get a chance to check out High Limit Racing, it's nearby. Well worth the $40 in my opinion. Well worth it. They do a whole thing, get the drivers out to their mini haulers for pictures or autographs. They're all great. They put on a good show. It's a boom, boom, boom type of thing. It's just the 410s. And man, if you've never seen 410s run on dirt, dude, there was a guy sitting behind this. It's like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, it's wild, right? Like this is good stuff, man. So highly recommend. Definitely 1010. And thank you for covering for me, man.
Yeah, no problem. I was able to get our old buddy Schmitty over here, Dylan Schmittler, to fill your spot.
He's fun, man. I love having Dylan on. And I tell you what, I would love to go do a trivia night with Dylan in my corner. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I remember you suggested that idea before because you know what? That's a fun idea.
Dude, that dude's got some stuff. I thought I had a good memory, man. That dude's got stuff filed away that just, it's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, it certainly is. I have to ask you this question now. Did you think the Truck Series race this past weekend was impressive at all?
No.
The hesitation right there really says it all too.
How do I say this? Like, it was one of the more frustrating events to watch. And I understand some of it was because I had some money in there with DFS and everything. I felt good about the Stuart Friesen call. I did really push him in the cheat sheet and suggest him even in the overview article. So I felt really good about that. It was cool to see him win after the struggles they've had. But so what happened was they had the late caution. I went outside with the dogs. I came in, and right as I came in, I was seeing Gio backwards in the grass and Heim down there with them. And I started cussing at the TV, and the wife thought I was yelling at the dogs. And she couldn't figure out why I was mad. And the thing was, what the F, man? I mean, you want to talk about inexperienced rookie mistakes. Like, again, I pushed Gio, said the speed is coming because he's starting further back. This is a great opportunity. So up until the last three cautions, Sean, I was feeling kind of like a genius because I felt like I went on a limb on a couple of guys, and it was really kind of showing. And it all really literally came to a crashing halt with one of the worst. That restart is on par, and I like Cletus McFarland. I really do. It was on par with Cletus's mistake in the ARCA race at
you mean Dega?
No, because remember he said there was no restrictor plates in it. And maybe it was Michigan.
Right.
Maybe it was Michigan. Wherever ARCA ran that was on shortly before the big boys, he totally screwed up on a restart. He was starting on the front row and just spun him and caused a big wreck. Took out Corey Heim in that race, if I remember correctly, ARCA. Maybe it was Michigan the day. But in his interview, he said, I forgot these cars didn't have restrictor plates because they weren't at Talladega like he was the previous race. And it reminded me of that. Like, guys, what are we doing? Like, you can't win a race if you don't finish a race, you know?
Corey Heim said the same exact thing in his interview pretty much. So
did he really? I didn't see the interview.
He was like, I understand that he's a rookie and all, but he can't be making mistakes like this. He's got to communicate better.
Yeah, it was and the sad thing is Gio keeps putting himself in dangerous situations. He wrecked a couple of weeks ago when he caught the dirt at Charlotte or whatever it was. And, maybe it was Cletus McFarland at Charlotte. That may have been it. But anyway.
Yeah, it may have been.
He keeps showing speed. And you know me, I'll chase the speed. We're going to have to take our lumps. But the fact of the matter is, if we bet on speed over the long haul, speed wins, right? I mean, it pays to bet on speed. So Gio's got talent because he's doing more in the same equipment that other people aren't doing much in. Him and Jake Garcia really are kind of showing out the talent there with the equipment.
Yeah, Jake's actually been running fairly solidly this year.
Yeah.
And big improvement over last season.
For sure. And he's not wrecking like he did last season. So maybe that's what we should look forward to for Gio for next year, right?
But I mean, and even then, Gio, when you look back at where he finished, he almost came back for a top 10.
He did. Which is mind-blowing because he was literally backwards in the grass, after bouncing off of what felt like everybody in the field. It was sloppy and inexperienced racing. I mean, I don't want to – it was crappy, inexperienced racing is what I think it was in the Truck Series. And we always seem to deal with this 2 to 3 times a year, and then they have to sit down the drivers and say, quit acting like, Nimrods, remove your head from your ace, and start behaving like adults. I still say the Truck Series is the most fun to watch and what I like the most, but yeah, by far. It was by far the worst race of the weekend.
Yeah, although I will have to say that you do have to give some shout outs to some names that haven't consistently finished in the top 10 right there. I mean, Luke Fenhouse got third for freaking
finally. Well, and that was another guy I said we should be watching that, was getting there. And that was, he did a phenomenal job. Like I said, Stuart Friesen, after the lumps he's been taking, he's been collected for 3 weeks in a row after being fast.
Yeah, and then he led the final 2 laps in order to get the job done.
He earned it. He earned it, too. He really did earn it.
Then you had Corey LaJoie in 5th. Jake Garcia, as mentioned, finished 7th. And then little shout out to Andres Perez in the nice spot right there, too.
He did a good job, and that's someone I like for this weekend. I do apologize for LaJoie. I didn't think his practice times looked that great, and I figured he'd be a little rusty. I was wrong, period, full stop. Should have known better, and honestly, it should have been a gimme because you know how I love it. Just like Eric Almirola hops in these other cars after being in Cup. I hate to say it. I don't want to say it's easy for them, but there's a reason these guys were in Cup, right? And they're racing with a bunch of guys that aren't. So shame on me for that. That won't happen again with LaJoie, I promise.
Yeah, and just a few more shout-outs at the Cup Series because there were a few other interesting names that ended up in the top 10. We really didn't talk much about Chris Buescher, but he finished in the second spot right there, and really had circumstances been different, he may have been the winning car right there.
Boy, he loves Michigan, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just really good right there. Shout out to Bubba Wallace in 4th right there. Another strong run, back-to-back top 10s for Bubba. Zane Smith in 7th. Kyle Busch snuck away with an 8th place run. Ryan Preece keeps knocking off the top 10s. He finished 9th. And even though this wasn't a top 10, well, actually, you know what? I'll shout out Brad Kay as well in 10th. This is the first time this year that all 3 RFK cars finished in the top 10 there, Rich.
And Brad was running top 5, top 6 for a good chunk of the race. And, hey, Ryan Preece, I love you, but, man, way to stick it to me. Last week I suggest you as a top 10. You don't do it. Every other weekend for the last month has been a top 10 except for that one. So, dude, you owe me. You owe me something. Like, we're going to have to go out on a limb somewhere and bet a top 5 or something and get some of that money back. Because, bro, come on, man.
Maybe that's might be something to consider for next week right there, Rich.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not pushing that this week. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah. And did want to give a small mention right there towards Legacy Motor Club with Eric Jones, just shy of a top 10. I know he was within that list of top 10 bets there, and that was very close too.
They're getting faster. And I tell you what, Carson Hocevar looking good in that equipment last year when nobody else did. Kind of.
You mean the year before?
Or the year before, yeah. I think kind of speaks to Hocevar overall. I thought Hocevar was a rookie this year.
He was a rookie last year.
Yeah, so the 4 races he did with Legacy the year before, and it was like looking competitive when none of the other drivers did. I think we all need to appreciate what Carson Hocevar is, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know what? I know he's with Spire right now, but it wouldn't shock me if other teams wanted to talk to him. I'll say that much.
He sure would look good in the 48.
Chad Knaus was talking with Carson not too long ago, and people were getting ideas right there. I'll say that much.
I mean, I like Alex Bowman, and I feel bad the guy keeps hitting everything, but I don't think Bowman is the same talent level as Hocevar.
No, I do not either, but, Bowman, he's got to get it together. Maybe this might not be a bad week for him to come back with a decent result, but, man, I just feel for him because he just keeps taking hard shots in this car, too.
You can tell. I mean, he said in his interview, I'm tired of hitting.
Yeah, he did directly say that in the interview, S-word and everything. But you know what? Let's move on from Michigan, and let's actually talk about what I think might be the one thing that'll get you the happiest to talk about this week.
Oh, I'll be shocked. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Rams finally back.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It's official.
It's official. Now the question is, how long till we see Dodge and Cup?
Well, as far as how I'm speculating too, and especially from what I was hearing about media reports, the earliest possible is 2027, but I think 2028 is more
I would say
likely.
I think 2028 is more likely. And to be fair, technically Dodge and Ram are separate companies, right? So
Well, they're
maybe
all
we
under
don't.
the same umbrella brand, Stellantis.
Correct. So maybe we do or don't, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'd be somewhat shocked if we didn't see another manufacturer, but I mean, you dropped the little tidbit on Honda earlier. What if we get both Dodge and Honda, or some Stellantis group in Honda, along with Chevy, Toyota,
And Ford.
Ford? I mean,
Yeah.
here's the thing: Ford's kind of. I want to tread lightly here because if you look at the truck series, Ford isn't really well represented these days.
No, they seriously aren't. Their biggest team is ThorSport right there. So,
Right. And I want to say, aren't they like 80% of the Fords in the field?
yeah, and the really crazy part about this is how ThorSport as a whole is not looking very great this year. They only got one driver currently inside the playoff picture right there with Ty
Right.
Majeski.
Right. And Ty has not looked great. And Matt Crafton hasn't looked good in quite some time. Like I said, we mentioned some of the younger guys that are driving for him that are showing out from a time or two. But here's the thing: a couple of them are full time, a couple of them aren't full time, and I would argue that's where the most speed is. And you know as well as I do, when you don't have a lot of consistency with driver and crew chief, it can become a problem, or a challenge. I should say a problem, a challenge as far as consistently having speed and getting good finishes. So very interesting. Now, Lane Riggs isn't a Ford though, right?
Yeah, Front Row is the only other really big Ford team, and they've been looking a lot better than ThorSport this year.
I mean, Chandler.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you probably were going to say this too, Chandler Smith has been looking great in that truck this year. He's got 2 wins. And then Lane Riggs is looking like one of the very, very few drivers that actually can compare speed-wise to Corey Heim this year.
Agreed. I'm at 100% agree. That's exactly where I was going with it, is those two guys, quite frankly, are the only ones that can kind of hang with Heim time, right? So, and Smith, he's had a little more experience, and we all knew we were pushing Riggs last year, right? We were excited for this. Riggs, like host of ours, another guy. You got to pull those reins back a little bit on him, but I'd much rather have a driver you pull the reins back on.
Oh, definitely, for sure. So as far as Brand being back in the truck series, I know there were some rumors and murmurings that maybe we might see the return of GMS Racing and have them go to Dodge, but there has been a little bit of discussion of the team we were just talking about before, ThorSport, and they have a history of switching manufacturers quite often in the truck series. Do you think ThorSport's going to make the jump?
I tell you what, if ThorSport is the team that makes the jump, Ford is in real trouble. Like, I mean, there was already talk at the cup level about Ford renewing contracts. Like, I know a guy that's a big Ford dude who's very open, and he has basically said there's concerns there long term. Like, he doesn't know how much the racing program with Ford really continues. So I don't know if maybe that's why we're hearing so much rumbling of some of these other manufacturers, because, Sean, we've been around. How many times have we heard we need a fourth manufacturer? We need a fourth manufacturer. And every time we add a fourth, one disappears shortly thereafter. Or we add a fifth, one disappears, right? Like, I mean, people forget Pontiac used to be in NASCAR. They won a championship with Bobby Labonte, right?
Yeah.
Pontiac don't even exist anymore.
It was only a few years after that where they decided to not be involved too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of consolidation, and it's not just on cars. So I'll be curious to see how all this plays out. And if, you're onto something about ThorSport, the other thing I could see Hattori Racing being sold and them making a change. And this is just more of a gut feeling, since they lost their owner. And the sad thing is they've been good in the past. I mean, did Ryan Blaney drive for them at one point?
Blaney drove for Brad Keselowski Racing during most of his Truck Series tenure.
Did he?
Much.
Okay.
So I don't think that's relevant in the discussion because BKR has been gone for more than a
long
couple
time.
Years now.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Blaney was in a Hattori truck at one point.
And Hattori's Toyota too. So.
Oh, that's right, they are. They are Toyota. But I could just see there's a lot of Toyota trucks. So I wouldn't be shocked to see somebody make a change because Tricon is the leader of the Toyotas in that garage. Anyone else in the Toyota is going to be, second fiddle, if you will. So, the
Even
other
though
one,
we just saw one of those second fiddle cars win this past weekend.
Right. They did. Another team that I think would be interesting, and I'll be honest, Sean, I think it's a Chevy, is Nice.
Nice. That's an interesting call.
They've been one that has been near the top, and kind of floating around. And again, regardless if it's Chevy or Toyota, they're second fiddle, right? So I could see them wanting to make that jump. They're definitely investing in some younger talent. I mean, we're seeing that with Caden Honeycutt. We're seeing that with
they were the ones that bought Josefar up and got everybody's attention with him.
Right. So, I could see some of that, but I digress. That there's a lot of what ifs.
I think the interesting thing about the whole Ram thing was that they were talking about how the Stellantis owner, I think, or one of the higher ups, was saying that if we're here, we're not just going to be a one sport kind of team. We're planning to go cup racing before we know it. So they know they're definitely going to do it. It's just a matter of what year is really the question.
When and what team, right? I mean, let's be honest. They're probably shopping a team right now, if I had to guess.
Considering all the different reports that I've been hearing, I'm starting to think it's either Trackhouse or RFK, especially RFK with the rumors that they may have been talking with Honda about them if they potentially join too.
And see, I think someone like Trackhouse needs to consider it. Again, they're always going to be second, third with the Chevy group. I don't know that he would do it, but we talk about teams switching teams. You know who used to switch manufacturers a lot? This weird guy by the name of Richard Petty.
Oh, yeah. Even then, his team switched manufacturers so many times, too.
Right. Even after he retired, right? I mean, that man drove an Olds, Thunderbird, a Chevy, a Dodge. Even when, it was RPM Racing, they were one of the last Dodge teams. Not saying Jimmy would do this. I don't know the relationship there, but it would be kind of ironic if Legacy Motor Club ended up being a Dodge team.
It's funny you should mention that because that's not out of the question, Rich. It isn't. It would not shock me if Jimmy ended up switching to Dodge too, because Legacy, I mean, we know that as far as the Toyota camp is concerned, Gibbs and 2311 are king. So
right. It's not, that's what I'm saying. They are always going to be on their own. And if I'm going to be on my own and not getting team information, I want to be the top manufacturer, right? I mean, so it'll be interesting to see this play out.
You mentioned Legacy Motor Club. How about we skip a little ahead here and parlay this into this other interesting rumor of discussion right here. I'm not sure if you heard or saw about this before looking at the rundown today. But Legacy Motor Club, as you know, they're still in the whole little lawsuit situation with Brickware Racing about getting a third charter from them. Now, there's been some discussion, and rumors about if they have a third team, who could potentially be driving in that car. Well, Fox Sports' Bob Pockris published an article about silly season, and he thinks that maybe, just maybe, there's the potential that one Jesse Love might be talking with Legacy Motor Club. How about that, Rich?
Jesse, don't do that. Don't do that yet, man. Wait till they start performing, bro.
If they get a third charter, that is.
Well, I guess that's good news because I didn't want to hear John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones getting a boot, right? I feel like both of them deserve some opportunity to drive some top equipment, and they're not in top equipment. Oof.
Yet the thing that fuels
Jesse Love, though.
I was going to say the thing that fuels the fire a little bit that Bob also brings up is that Jesse does have a connection with Toyota because he ran ARCA with them.
And those relationships really don't just go away like that. We were talking about Jimmy, and I was sitting here going, did Jimmy drive a Ram when he was driving those trophy trucks? I don't know. You know what I mean? Is there a previous relationship with Dodge? I'd have to go look it up because Dodge used to, Dodge was a big part of those trophy trucks, or were at one point.
If you talk about Jimmy and his relationship with manufacturers and seeing if history will play into a part of his decision, I don't think that even matters because he never drove a Toyota before he switched to it either.
True. That's very true. That's true because he didn't even drive a Toyota. It was a Honda-powered car, wasn't it? An Indy car?
Yeah, it was a Honda-powered car.
Interesting. All right. Well, Jesse Love, I just want to see you in good equipment. Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek I like, and I feel like they're in crappy equipment, man. So,
although to be fair, they have found more speed this year. They are starting to look at least more like a top 20 team.
Yeah, but
it's better than being last in the standings. Let's put it that way.
I agree, but I mean, are you really excited to be top 20?
That beats being top 30. Let's put it that way.
And to be fair, here's a guy that is sitting in his duff at home and isn't driving a race car. I mean, if someone came to me and said it's top 30 equipment, that's all you're getting, do you really think I'm going to turn it down? But I'm also not Jesse Love that's 20-some years old and honestly is kicking butt out there, But, as much as I've griped about Corey Heim not getting an opportunity, I like the fact that, let's be fair, when he does get an opportunity, it's going to be top-notch equipment. He is not going to just limp into the series. And hat tip to Hocevar on this, because he kind of took a risk. Both him and Zane Smith both took pretty big risks, knowing that the equipment may not be all that, and said, we're making the jump from trucks anyway. And let's talk about that for a minute. Do we really need to see these guys come up through Xfinity? Like, I'm not sure the Xfinity is helping these guys in the Cup Series. We've heard the Cup drivers say there's more overlap with the trucks as it is, but I look at Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, and they're not doing any worse than the John Hunter Nemecheks or these other guys and John Hunter was honestly the last 2 years in Xfinity, he was giving Ty Gibbs everything he could handle. It's not like, he was just some schlup out there. He was kind of a favorite on a weekly basis.
Oh, for sure. JHN, he was really good at Xfinity when he was with JGR that whole time. I mean, we still have to think about the fact that the year before he went full-time Cup racing, he won about 7 times in Xfinity equipment.
Right.
7 times.
In one season. I mean, it was... Yeah. And it was all the tracks. It wasn't like it was just super speedways or just road courses. He did it everywhere. So, let me ask you this, Sean. For the old timers out there that are getting kind of, they feel like their drivers are gone. I've tried to explain this to my grandfather or illustrate it. I would argue there is more young talent now than we have probably had in NASCAR in decades. Like, I mean, look, it used to be an old man sport. Being a rookie at 29, 28 wasn't like old by any standard. I mean, look at Greg Biffle, how old he was when he was a rookie. Look at, and that was kind of about the time things started to change, right?
Yep.
If some of these guys could hone it in a little bit, I mean, Sean, let's say the Bushes, the Hamlins, I mean, these guys are in their 40s, right? These guys retire. Hocevar, I mean, Larson will be the old man at this point. Byron and Bell will be older at this point. But, I mean, Nick Sanchez, Corey Heim, Jesse Love. I don't know that we'll see Austin Hill. I mean, he probably deserves a shot, but I still think, Sammy Smith, Sam Mayer, Noah, I guess Noah's already in Cup. And that's not even really talking about some of these guys in truck. Like I have high hopes still for Raja. I hope he can turn that next page. Then you got the Gios of the world, the Jake Garcias of the world. Like these guys are showing out pretty good while their teammates aren't. I mean, I don't know there's enough seats for the talent that's out there, Sean.
No, there truly isn't unless some more new teams come along. And that's why I think also NASCAR's especially trying to push for the new manufacturers sooner rather than later, too.
Well, let's think about it this way. If you had 5 manufacturers 8 cars under each manufacturer. That's a 40-car field, which is what they have enough charters for with the 4 they held back or whatever, right?
Yeah, they held back 4 in case a new manufacturer comes in.
Right. Well, what if we get 2 new manufacturers, right? What do they do then, right? But I'm saying, if you really want parity, and I'm not into make everything fair and equal, but 8 cars, 5 manufacturers, I got to feel like the information would be pretty evenly split, right? I mean, 2, 4, they aren't going to let you have 4-car teams anymore. So you'd have to be 3, 3, and 2, or you got to be grandfathered in, with some of the teams could be. But I mean, I would argue 2 to 3 teams with 8 cars amongst them under one manufacturer, I think is maybe a good business model from a racing standpoint.
Well, the only other thing that I can hope for, and this is kind of a dream scenario a little more so because I don't think this is going to happen, but if they're holding back 4 more charters just for one new manufacturer, what if they're holding back another 4 for another manufacturer and make the field 44?
Well, we used to 43 was the number for decades, bro, right? I mean, It was a hat tip to Richard Petty, but part of the reason they shrank it is we weren't filling the fields, and we're still not. But if we're going to get these extra manufacturers with the charters, you're not going to hurt my feelings by going to 44 cars, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see that happen. That's why I said it's a dream scenario, but Agreed. I'm not sure if it's going to happen.
No, but we can dream, and I'm dreaming with you. I'm with you on it.
Let's get this next one out of the way here. This one that we skipped in favor of talking about Jesse here for real quick. But this ties directly into this week's race, but it's about Denny Hamlin. He said earlier this week that he's not going to race if his baby is not born before leaving for Mexico City. So,
Good.
As we know that Denny Hamlin, he's been on baby watch the past 2 races there. He's expecting potentially at any given day to have his kid with his wife right there. And this has been a big hot story, especially it's inspired a lot of discussion in the Discord about it each and every week. Is Hamlin starting? Is he not going to start? Well, now we know for a fact that maybe by the time this pod goes live, we might know by then. But as of us recording the pod right here, we don't know for certain. But if there's no baby being born, Hamlin's not racing, and instead Ryan Truex is going to fill in for him.
I'm at 80% Hamlin doesn't race.
I think that's a pretty valid number too. Pretty valid right there. I'm kind of with you on that.
I could be wrong, but I think that's where DraftKings pricing came into play. I think it's absolutely disrespectful for a guy that won an Xfinity race at this track to be priced at $7,100. Seems absolutely ludicrous to me. Unless you're trying to entice people to accidentally use him because he's not actually in the race, which they'll put the queue up there and warn people. But look, we're recording this at Wednesday night. It'll drop Thursday night. I got to believe that if the baby's not born sometime tomorrow, Thursday, or in the early hours of Friday morning, it's not happening. I can't see him missing all of practice down there and then wanting to hop in the race car. I could be wrong on that, but if I'm Denny, and I know it's their 3rd kid, look, Ryan, NASCAR's it's their rules. They have to give me a waiver.
By the way, NASCAR said that they are going to give him the waiver if he does miss.
Well, they said that, remember when they changed the rules this year, they specifically mentioned babies as one of the valid reasons along with medical, right? So he's going to get the waiver. He has 3 wins. And I think, I could be wrong, Sean, but my gut feeling is since he got the 3rd win, it really made it simple for him to take this stance because now he's tied with the other 2 guys with the most wins. He is basically locked into the playoffs. He's going to get the waiver. And and honestly, if I'm him with everything that's going on, do I really want to travel to Mexico City right now if I don't have to?
Yeah, right there. I mean, he said it before that he's prioritizing the birth of his child, which, by the way, it's his first baby boy, so that's a really big deal to him, too.
Oh, that's right. It's his 3rd overall, but it's the first boy. I forgot about that.
It's a really big deal to Denny right there, so he does not want to miss that.
No. Well, like I said, I hope he doesn't go. And it's nothing more than I hope one of the stars stay back, man. You know how I feel about this event, so I hope Denny's not down there, and I hope he gets to enjoy his baby.
What I will say this is that if Ryan Truex does end up racing this week, we know that the first time that Hamlin announced he was on Baby Watch, they put the Q on him, and they also added Ryan Truex into DraftKings lineups right there as a driver you could draft, and his salary was definitely lower. And imagine that Ryan gets into this week's race. I feel more comfortable using him at Mexico City than I did in the other previous 2 races where he could have been on Baby Watch, because road courses are a little more open, and I think this fits right into Ryan Truex's skill set a little bit more.
Do you? See, I'd like Ryan a little bit more in the oval, but you know me. If you give me a chance with the guy that he's done well in his opportunities and decent equipment. Every time he's been in decent equipment, he's been in the hunt, okay? Or won. And if to your point, if you're going to price him lower than where you have Hamlin this week, so now he's a 6,000 something driver, I don't care where he starts. I will gladly roll the dice and say, F it, let's see what happens.
Especially because there's one other big difference between this week and the other previous 2 weeks. Extended practice.
Oh, that's a very valid point, where if anything, he's going to get a good feel for the equipment and really the limits. And that's the other reason I don't know that Denny wants to push it. Everyone else is going to have extended practice. And if he skips practice to hop in the car that Ryan's practice, I don't know. I really think we are really unlikely to see Hamlin this weekend.
This is why I say, out of all the weeks to use Ryan Truex, if he gets in the car, this might be the best week to use him, just because the circumstances line up.
Yeah, he's going to your point, he's going to have about an hour of practice, which we don't get these days.
Yeah, and getting that in the next-gen car at a road course is huge.
Yes.
All right, so with that in mind, let's actually talk about the race itself a little bit here. Mexico City. First time that the Cup Series is ever going to visit Mexico City. Xfinity Series has been at this track before, but not since 2008. We got road course racing this week. It's just the second time this season that NASCAR is going to a road course for Cup. And overall, well, we got no data. Isn't that fun?
Literally none. Like, we clicked on the data. Just for giggles, I clicked on the data link on the NASCAR media credential page. I was like, I'm just curious what it's going to have here. Literally nothing. There was no link, nothing. I could pull up Michigan, and that was it. There was nothing. And what you'll see in my overview article, which will drop before this podcast does, I just looked at the last 10 races that I could pull from our data source. And sadly enough, they didn't include Chicago. I was trying to pull the last 10 road races for both series, and they didn't pull Chicago. Chicago's its own animal, so I don't hate it, but I would argue it's still road racing. Sean, you and I talked about it. Do we just look at COTA data because it's the most similar track? I don't really like doing that because I still feel like it's still unique in its own.
Well,
what are you going to do?
I'm still just going to go through and tackle it with my usual road course racing strategy. Thing is about road courses is they have low lap counts no matter which road course you go to. So even if you're trying to look for dominators, they aren't going to matter as much at this track compared to, say, the past couple of weeks where we've had a lot of races with some decent or to high lap counts. So this is a race where I think place differential is going to come into play and have a little more weight as far as the DFS strategy is concerned this week. I do think dominators could still make a difference because I do think this is a track where someone can go forth and just get away from it all and be able to lead for a little while. But there's not as much points up for grabs. Really just not.
What you said there is pretty much what I suggested in the article. The good news, we're going to have more practice. And here's the really good news. The CW app is free. And if you have Prime, we're going to watch the Cup race. You can pull up on both the CW app and Prime. You can pull up replays of practice and qualifying well after. So you don't have to worry about recording it or catching it live or catching the channel. You'll be able to go home Friday after your workday and watch at your leisure all the practice time we had. And I do recommend doing that. because like I said in the article, we're going to get more practice time. So we're kind of hoping somebody screws up in qualifying and we're like, they had a bad qualifying lap. I'm going to use this, because I want the place differential. The other thing I want to caution people on, I am worried about the equipment. And where that comes into play again is place differential, right? If we see, look, it's not uncommon to blow a couple of motors at a road race just because of misshifts, shifting gears, all of that. Well, this race is at 7,500 elevation. To give everybody an idea of how extreme that is, on average, NASCAR is at like 750 feet of elevation. So this is massive. It's a big difference, and it's going to rob speed from the motor because of the thin air, and it's also more difficult on the equipment. Now, teams have been there with the Xfinity Series, so there is some knowledge about what to expect. Granted, that was 20 years ago, completely different cars, these motors and everything have changed a lot, right? So I'm worried about getting burned by equipment failures, but that's just going to play into place differential where we don't get burned.
Yeah, and you mentioned about equipment failures. It makes you think about which manufacturers have had the most equipment failures this year. And
Toyota.
Yeah, if your name is Toyota, I would not be absolutely thrilled about this race. I'll say that much.
They have been the ones with the most challenges, Sean, right?
Yeah, that's not to say that Ford and Chevy have had their own share of issues too, because we have seen a few Chevy failures as well this year too.
We have. Well, and Ford too. Remember Blaney?
Yeah,
Blaney
there you
and
go.
Who was the other Ford that lost a cylinder? So they all have had it, but let's be fair. The most recent and the most rampant, and I don't even know if rampant's a fair word, has been Toyota.
And they've actually had it at road course events before too. Even in
they run higher. They run higher RPM, so I'm not shocked, right? Even from the time they launched in NASCAR, they were running a higher RPM than the other cars. So let me ask you this, Sean: do you think we see any parts failures in practice?
I don't think it's out of the question, Rich. We got extended practice. There's more room for it to happen.
Well, let me ask you this: because of extended practice, are we going to have, let's just say it wasn't at elevation, but I could argue with extended practice, we might see more equipment failures in general.
Yeah, I do think that's definitely within the realm of possibility right there too. And the thing is too, this is one of those weeks where qualifying is not directly after practice. So if you think that a failure in practice is going to affect qualifying, it may not necessarily be the case now.
No, you're right. So there's a lot going on. And I guess maybe I'll leave it at this. Maybe scale back your exposure this week a little bit because we have a lot more unknown variables that we don't typically deal with.
Nah, you definitely made that the sticking point right there, and that is something I agree with. Even on the betting side of things, this is a race where I'm not going to be as deep into my exposure for betting as well with that in mind too. Maybe I might reconsider that depending on how practice and qualifying goes.
Right.
But even then, shooting earlier in the week, there's very few bets that I even listed for this race.
Was it me or were the books maybe a little aggressive with some of their lines?
Yeah, I do think it wasn't just you.
Okay. Because I looked at some, I was like, you're just trying to steal money, people. I see it. I'm just saying, I see it.
Yeah, when you go forth and you look at, say, even DraftKings Sportsbook, for example, you only got one driver in Cup that's under plus 500, and then the next few drivers after that are plus 700 or higher. When you look towards the previous week, you'd had at least maybe 2 or 3 drivers around the plus 500 or 600 range as at minimum right there.
Right, and the favorite's plus 300 for a guy that hasn't won this year and has shown improvement. But in fact, the Xfinity favorite's even worse. Plus 100? I know he looked good earlier in the year with the road race. He really did. But that And I fear that people are going to chase those favorites, Sean. I really do. I think people are going to be willing to pay up and get the low odds on the two favorites. And I don't know that I can recommend that personally. Maybe after practice I feel differently, but you know me, man. I hate low odds going for wins because Carson Hocevar is a perfect example. If we had him as a long shot bet, I am not wanting to stab my own leg with that blown tire. If he was a plus 300 bet, though, I'm wanting to stab my leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you think about towards Michigan last week, I think I remember he was around 14-1 in order to win.
Yep, he was.
So, yeah, I do think that if you are going to bet earlier in the week, but you have your mind dead set on a favorite, like you're biased towards that particular favorite, I'd consider waiting until after practice and qualifying to see if that changes and then go from there. If not, then maybe, just maybe do in-race betting if you have to bet on that particular guy.
We'll get to your bets. I like some of your bets there in the top 10s. I think that's the way to go because if you're going to lose your odds, it's going to be on the top 10s. And I'd much rather have a window of a 30% chance. I mean, let's be honest. We're only or 25% chance. We don't even have 40 cars out there, and we just got to get in the top 10. I like your picks for there. We'll talk about that, Sean. If I'm going to bet early, those are the only bets I'm chasing. There's no way, unless I want to chase some BS long shot, I'm not betting a winner early. I think we're playing with fire.
Although you mentioned about the smaller field size right there, that applies to Cup, but not really much so with the Xfinity Series.
Fair.
And if you look at our notable list of part-timers and notables, go ahead right there, Rich. You could just read off the list. It's not a small list right there.
Well, not only that, we got some big names on the list. I mean, there's some names on here that are going to matter. Alex, why do I screw up his last name, Sean?
I got you with this one. It's Alex Labay, and he's driving the 07. He's Canadian, so he drives the 07 for SS Greenlight this week.
You know, that's an interesting one because he does have somewhat of a road racing background. Daniel Suarez, he's going home. He's going to be driving the number 9 Junior Motorsports machine. That's top-notch equipment. I don't think we should sleep on Suarez. Josh Bilicki in the number 14 SS Greenlight Racing. Greenlight Racing hasn't been awesome, but as you've pointed out numerous times this year, they have had speed. Josh Bilicki has been good on the road courses, and that goes back a while. I mean, he was a great pick last year at Chicago, for example. Ty Gibbs in the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing machine. That's a name that we need to watch. I will not be shocked if Ty Gibbs is the class of the field. Christopher Bell with Sam Hunt in the number 24. I can't believe he's racing for Sam Hunt, but Sam Hunt cars have been okay on the road courses. We've seen it with Sage Karam in the past. Austin Green for Jordan Racing. Jordan Racing, number 32. They've also been a decent car at times on the road courses and the super speedways for Xfinity. So Austin Green's going to get a shot there. You got me on this one. Ruben Rovelo.
Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce that one. NASCAR themselves didn't have the entry for this, so I had to kind of search online for this one. And I believe Ruben Rovelo, who's one of the NASCAR Mexico Series drivers, is going to be making a start in that number 35 for Joey Gase Motorsports right there.
Yep. Brad Perez, he's impressed us that time, Sean. Number 45 Alpha Prime. Sage Karam, number 53, Joey Gase Motorsports. Sage is a road racer. So, I don't know that I'd look for him as a win, but it's a name to keep in mind. Thomas Annunziata, number 7.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it for once. I should be able to get it. It's freaking Italian. Cope Family Racing. And the name I'm really interested in, he was a name you brought up in the truck series. Andreas Perez de Lara, number 91 for DGM Racing. He's also kind of going home, and he's been showing speed in the trucks lately.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that Andres Perez is getting this start in the Xfinity Series. This is going to be his Xfinity Series debut even in the number 91 car. And that number 91, they're about mid-pack equipment, but it's not terrible equipment. And at times, you can see that car in the top 15 or maybe even the top 10 if circumstances line up. So do not sleep on that, I say.
The Sam Hunts, the DGMs, those are the ones I'm worried about the equipment failures, right? Because how much are they going to really, the top teams have done their homework. They know we got to scale back here. We got to tune back here. They're okay with it because they're already the class of the field. It's these mid tier pack guys I'm worried about, because how far are they going to push that limit?
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see. Although I do think Sam Hunt Racing isn't exactly. I think they're above average of the mid pack, though.
Fair.
They sometimes get some pretty good runs within that equipment. Like, they're not Gibbs, but they're probably the second best Toyota team that's out there.
I think that's a little generous, but I feel you. I get you.
They're at least within that number 2 position, I'd say, or competing for it.
That's fair.
As far as the Cup Series is concerned, there's only one name right here. It's Catherine Legg, driving the number 78 Live Fast Motorsports car. That's BJ McLeod's team. At the very least, I know you have a lot of feelings about Catherine Legg's involvement in NASCAR, but credit where credit is due. This is at least a race that fits her background, so she could have somewhat of an impact, maybe.
Maybe because I already listed her as a fade in the overview article. Maybe I should rescind that, because she is a road racer by trade. So if this is where you and I talked earlier in the year, not sure Mexico City was the right place, but this is the type of racing they should have started her with, in my opinion.
But at the very least, if you are going to pick a road course, I think that plays a little bit more towards her advantage, because not many of the other drivers have even seen this place, so they're going to be on the same level of experience as her. So in that sense, that evens out the field a little bit more. I think back towards a few years ago when we first went to Chicago, where nobody saw that track for the first time, and that played right into SVG's hand in order to win that race.
100% it did. 100% it did. And, maybe that's why the books are so heavy on SVG. They're like, hey, this is, it's his wheelhouse, and nobody has experience here, and neither does he, and that plays to his favor.
Yeah. The books are going to be favoring the ones that have a lot of natural road course ability combined with decent enough equipment to get it done.
100%.
All right. So before we get into our actual picks, this is just a reminder. Be sure to like, subscribe, and be sure to also go over to fantasyguru.com. Get any of the packages over there. You can get the MVP, Platinum, VIP, or all-in packages, which cover all the sports right there. We have our MLB content still available. You can see different articles and such by the Oracle, Ray Flowers, and the rest of the MLB team right there. You can get the Fantasy Guru NFL Draft Guide right now, and there's various NFL packages that are available for sale, and even our very own Rich Maletto has contributed to some of the NFL content. And if Rich is contributing to it, you can't miss that now. So do be sure to go in. That. Hey, come on, man.
I appreciate it. I'm just you missed the conversation with me and Finsty earlier today, so that it was just kind of funny the way.
Come on, I'm telling you that the people, you're a part of the product, and the product is good.
I am. I appreciate that. The product is good. I just put myself on the lower end of the spectrum of the talent we have. So, but no, I appreciate it. It was Fincey made a comment that every time we talk about something, there's always a little bit of self-deprivation in there when it comes to my content. So I appreciate you, Sean. And I will say this: you guys want to do us a real favor and be funny at the same time. Tweet at Jeff_Mance and tell him how much you love us in the Race Guru Thunder Hour. That would actually mean a crap. That would mean a crap ton to me, and it may annoy Jeff, but I think it would be funny.
Oh yeah, if you're listening to this or watching this, do yourself a favor and go ahead and do that. Even though you may get on Jeff's side to say, why is everybody suddenly tweeting at me? Just know it's for the good of the company, and he'll appreciate that later.
And you can bust toss me later, and we'll figure it out.
But if you aren't going to do that, then at the very least, if you're watching or listening to this and you don't have a package, just hit up support@fantasyguru.com and let them know that we sent you there too, so they can get you the best possible deal out there. And you know what? If you aren't going to bother Jeff, maybe you can bother Ted and get on his nice side right there.
That's a good idea too. That's a good idea too.
You know what else is a good idea, Rich?
Our picks?
Yeah, see? You're with the program right there. Let's get right into discussing some of our top priced options to watch and help the people see if they could at least maybe win some money off this race this weekend. Who knows? But let's present our top price picks to watch here. So I technically have 4 drivers that I'm discussing this week, but that's just because two of the picks are kind of site dependent a little bit. But I'm going to go through them here. I got Shane Van Gisbergen right there. He is the obvious favorite. He has so much natural road course talent that he's going to be the guy to beat, I'd argue. I got AJ Allmendinger, who I also like for both sites, another driver with a lot of road racing experience. And I think that the DFS sites are kind of undervaluing his price a little bit this week. And he's also been an established winner at road courses before in Cup. So that's something more to really watch right there. And then the 2 drivers that I think are site dependent this week that I have my eye on are Tyler Reddick for DraftKings and Christopher Bell for FanDuel. Christopher Bell is the most recent Road Course Cup Series race winner, winning at COTA earlier in the year. And then Tyler Reddick, he's been one of the most consistent drivers when it comes to road course racing in this car that we're driving overall in the Cup Series. So you have to look back towards a lot of his road racing finishes outside Chicago, and you're going to find a little while before you can find a finish outside of the top 15 for Tyler Reddick. So I like him a lot this week too. I think the price on DraftKings specifically for Reddick is very friendly because he's under 10K this week. Whereas for Christopher Bell on FanDuel, he's actually he's the most expensive driver, second most expensive on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he's the 4th most expensive at $12,500, and that's a pretty nice price for him right there.
I'm with you on all those. I do like SVG. I just hate that he's like the highest price, the lowest odds, all of that. I'm a little leery on the equipment because it's not like we saw SVG dominate COTA or really run up front, but he's come around on the ovals here lately, so I don't know if the equipment's come around a little bit. I'm a little nervous on Dinger. I wanted to be there on Dinger. Lately, his numbers haven't been that great. They were really starting to come around till they got that penalty, and I don't know if I'm just getting a blind spot because they seem to take a step back after the penalty, but I'm nervous there. I will say this, Reddick, there's only one driver with more top 10s in the last 10 road racing events, not counting Chicago because of the data set. Only one driver has more top 10s than Reddick, so I'm with you on Reddick. I'm also with you on Bell. I get why he's priced the way he is. He has been really pretty good on road courses, and this goes back 2-3 years. I remember watching him at the Indianapolis GP, and he was the only Toyota, the only Gibbs car that was even hanging with anybody, and it was worth noting. So I'm 100% with you on Bell. This is where I'm going to throw you a curveball, though. Give me Byron. While Reddick has 7 top 10s in the last 10 races, not Chicago, Byron has 6. Interestingly enough, Byron's 6 top 10s are all top 5s. So, and Byron was a factor there at COTA. So I'm going to be a little bit on an island. I think it's going to be a sneaky value and a sneaky play. He's not a value because of pricing, but I value in that I don't know that a lot of people will be on him unless he shows out at practice. So I'm kind of really heavy on the Byron bandwagon for this weekend.
So you said you're going to be on an island on this one. I think I'm going to vacation there with you because I also like Byron this week too. So
bring it.
Byron's actually been a very solid and underrated road course racer right there. And he almost won at COTA earlier in the year too.
Right.
So I do think that we should not underestimate him. I just didn't like him price-wise as much as Reddick on DraftKings, but it's very close. And on FanDuel, I have the same sort of argument because Bell is just a little bit cheaper than Byron on FanDuel as well. But if you need a pivot play, like say, for example, you need another driver that's not Reddick and that's not Bell, I'd stick Byron as that next option.
I think you could get away with picking 2 of any of those 4 guys we listed. And we can include Dinger as a 5th guy. But, I mean, if you tell me I've got to pick 2 out of SVG, Bell, Reddick, and Byron, I'm really okay with that. I don't know that until we at least see practice that I'd have a strong lean on which 2. Do you know what I mean? Pricing would come into play kind of depending how to balance the lineup, but no problem using 2 of those 4 in any sort of format or system.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm in full agreement right there. And I'm also throwing AJ Allmendinger in there too, just because his salary is a lot lower than these drivers
Oh,
too.
he's a value.
Yeah, and I think the DFS sites are kind of just undervaluing him this week, especially because Kaulig Racing as a whole, they found more speed this year. And I think
They did.
that's something we have to keep an eye on right there.
I tell you what, I don't know if I'm quite there yet with Dinger, Sean, but the next 2 road races that we come to, I have a feeling I'm going to be in that same boat. Like I said, feel like they took a slight step back with the crew chief suspension and some of the penalty challenges. I just kind of want to see it. I will not be shocked if after practice you and I don't talk and I go, I'm building around Dinger. I mean, at his price point, if he's top 5 in practice speed on the lap averages and all of that, it's going to be really difficult to not build around him because of his price point.
Oh, definitely. I really think that as far as the top priced options are concerned this week, you have a lot of options that you could really play around with there. I know we didn't talk about some of the other drivers right there, but Chase Elliott at 9,500, even if he isn't the road course king anymore, you can't underestimate him to at least get like a top 10 out of it. And then we also should mention maybe Kyle Busch at 8,800 as well, because one of his best races of the year was Coda, and he was in contention for the win until his car just faded away late, and he's at 8,800 this week. That's a salary that I do not mind. And then, of course, you have Daniel Suarez, who, there's a lot of pressure on Suarez in order to perform this week, and I'm sure he has this weekend circled as probably an opportunity for him.
And don't forget, Kyle Busch did win technically the last NASCAR race here at this track.
Yeah, that's very true. 2008 in the Xfinity Series. Both him and Hamlin have won at this track before, so, well, not that I'm not sure if Hamlin's going to race or not, but really, Busch is the one that's going to matter more for DFS anyway this week, I'd argue. So,
true story.
Let's get into the mid-tier drivers in order to watch for this week here, Rich. So, getting into our list right here, well, I should say it would be my list, but it's also your list too. So let's just talk about the drivers.
Just to be fair, Sean, that was the guys I highlighted before. I mean, and look, the data points to these guys, right? But I just want to make it clear I'm not copying Sean. Sean and I do this. I remind everyone we do it independently. But yes, we completely overlap this week.
100% overlap right there. So let's just say the names here: Chris Buescher, Carson Hocevar, Ty Gibbs. I mean, really, I think these three are just probably the guys in order to watch out of this group right here. So Buescher has been the most consistent driver on road courses. I mean, he only has one finish outside of the top 20 in like the last 16 road racing events, not at Chicago. That is unbelievable right there.
The only guy with more top 10s in the last 10 races, again, outside Chicago, than Reddick was Chris Buescher. He had 8 top 10s in that same span. And while Reddick had 7 and a couple of guys had 6, that's it. And I don't know how many people would have guessed that about Buescher, Sean. I would have ventured you and Dylan would have gotten that right, but I don't think too many other people would have.
They seriously keep doing this for Chris Buescher and just not put him up within that 9K range where he belongs. Seriously.
I'll take it though, man. I mean, hate on him. I don't care. The dude just gets it done. And when he does it, he was so disappointed this past weekend. You could just tell the frustration level. But he was being very calculated. And look, once he starts rattling off some wins, I tell you what, there may not be a pile of Chris Buescher fans. Like Freddie Kraft was talking on the podcast because I can't remember who he was talking about. Get around him. Was it Hamlin? Oh, yeah, it was Hamlin. Beat your favorite driver. He goes, the second place driver was Chris Buescher. Who are Chris Buescher fans? It's not like this guy is selling jerseys or T-shirts all over the place. But I guarantee you that his fans are diehard fans. I promise you, his fans are diehard fans and will go to war for that man. So I'm curious.
Shout out to Prosper, Texas.
Yeah, there we go. Love it. And Ty Gibbs in Cup, in 10 races in Cup, has 3 top 10s, which is better than a whole bunch of other people. As crazy as that may sound, he has 3 top 10s in the last 10 road racing events. And for a guy that we're like, man, he's only finally getting speed again, that caught my eye.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's not even mentioning the fact that, as we mentioned earlier, he's pulling double duty this weekend, too.
Which is always good. Extra seat time.
Which
And
means he gets 2 extended practices this week to deal with.
he may be the guy to beat overall. And look, I don't know how many people know this, but Carson Hocevar's been very good on road courses. He qualified on the pole with a broken foot in the Truck Series a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Don't sleep
Sonoma.
on Hocevar this weekend. I understand his MO isn't necessarily a road racer, but going into this week before I even pulled the data, I was already looking to use Hocevar. So when Sean had him listed too, I can't lie, I went full mast.
Oh, yeah, and pretty much my other reasoning for Hocevar is just based on his finish history at road courses outside of Chicago, because he only has 1 finish outside of the top 20 in his entire Cup career at road courses, again, outside of Chicago, and that only time where he did it was a 22nd place finish, and that was his very first time in a Cup car at a road course.
Damn.
He's gotten better since.
Damn.
So really, I mean, Hocevar, especially with how hot he's been lately, this may be an underrated opportunity for Carson this week in order to pull out a pretty good result. And I will say this too, there are a few other drivers in this tier that I think are also worth mentioning as kind of honorable mentions. I do think Michael McDowell and Austin Cindric could be ones to watch as well. And I know people don't think of him as this next guy as a road course racer, but I do think we should also not forget about Ryan Blaney as well.
I thought his pricing was absolutely disrespectful.
Oh, yeah, totally. You can make an argument for Joey Logano as well at the flat 7K also being disrespectful, but Blaney's been he's been kind of underrated a little bit as far as getting place differential at these tracks.
I saw that and was like, I don't remember Blaney being that bad. You know what I mean? Like went back and was like, I mean, he's not lighting the world on fire, but y'all got him priced like he's a jobber out there.
Yeah, when really he's going to get you points just because of place differential right there. He's done it often on road courses.
I'm with you.
So shout out to Blaney right there. Let's get into the sleepers and values here, which I think is going to be a very heavily discussed tier come race day. I'll say that much.
I agree. Well, there's a lot of names that depending on how practice goes, like we'll get into some of the honorable mentions. I'm curious who yours are because there's a couple of names I didn't list there that, depending on practice, man, I definitely could pivot.
Oh, for sure. So I've got 3 drivers right there that I kind of have my eye on, and I got 2 names that you already have on your list right there, Todd Gilliland and Cole Custer. But really where I differ is that I'm on Bubba Wallace. And again, I know it feels like we keep having this conversation about Bubba, but he's a better road racer than you might think. And I think people always underestimate him on these road courses because of the salary.
I think I feel burned at times, Sean, because I think what happens is he's doing well, and then he goes off course and screws himself. And I know at some point that's going to stop, but and honestly, when you went over Bubba this past weekend and stuff, I started him and Hom that the pricing is low enough that maybe you don't have to sell me on Bubba. I get it. I can't seem to get there yet.
I'm just saying he's a driver that I have my eye on because when you have he's consistently finished top 20 at road racing events, and that even includes some of the races at Chicago as well too. I don't think we should fully sleep on that if we're going below 7K. That's on
fair.
DraftKings right
That's
here.
Fair.
Especially when he's in 2311 equipment, which we know is good equipment too. I think for that price, really, I think he should be within like the mid to high 7K range if we really wanted to argue based on results.
Given our whole discussion with the Toyotas and the motors, you know what would be the most Bubba Wallace thing ever? He's on his way to a top 5 finish with 15 laps to go, and he blows a motor.
Yeah, that would be something, but Then again, though, you see all the different Toyota drivers that have motor problems. You usually don't see Bubba being.
I was saying, to be fair, he's been one that hasn't really had that issue. Reddick has. He hasn't really had that issue. I'm just saying, the way the Bubba Wallace story has gone, and hat tip to him for having the better head on his shoulders and all that, that would be the most Bubba Wallace thing ever.
Yeah, have a really strong run only for it to go wrong due to a technical issue.
That's not his fault. That's not his fault. He's missed a shift and done it on his own, but I feel bad for the guy, and at the same time, some of it he created on his own, but I get why you like him. I just can't seem to get there. It's one of those where I just can't get my stomach or head wrapped around it. Here again, though, we see practice, Sean. I could easily go that way. And I have a feeling you're going to push back on my opposite guy from you.
Oh, your opposite guy? I'll say this much, that I'm not fully against it as much as you might think.
For me, it comes down to pricing. The fact that Brad Keselowski's only $6,700. Is he the best road racer? No, but I have seen him compete for wins. It's been a while, but I have seen him compete for wins in a road race. He has consistently, we haven't seen the place differential points, but holy crap, Sean, no matter where he has qualified this year, by mid-race, we have seen him moved up in easy 10 to 14 spots on a regular basis. Like, he has consistently qualified in the mid-20s, and we have seen him inside the top 10 for extended periods of time during all these events. Now, whether it's been a tire, a motor, an accident, whatever, all these things have come into play. But, Sean, at $6,700, I feel like it's straight up disrespectful pricing, and I'm going to have a hard time not using him at that price.
I'm just going to say it, but Brad K, it may not be a bad call, because considering he's not been good at qualifying at all this year, really that much, it makes a lot of sense. And qualifying is another element that's going to swing a lot of these plays right here. Now, I know I mentioned Bubba Wallace and saying keep an eye on him not too long ago, but the thing is, though, is that at times Bubba's actually been a solid qualifier and gotten high up in the field too. And if he qualifies high up within this field, I may not even like him, and I might be adopting your mindset of using Brad K this week right there.
Well, you said it at the beginning. The Dominator points, and I said that, I literally said in the article, the Dominator points are nerfed when we go to these road course races, right? That just the amount of laps. I mean, you lead 40 laps at a quarter a point, you got 10 points. Great. Well, you started 27th and finished 15th. You just got 12 points. And how many of us are, 12th, 15th, right? Like, we don't think much about it, but that's literally where we're seeing the folks like the Brad Keselowskis. I said there's a couple of other names. Zane Smith is coming to mind at his price point. He's been a little bit better of a road racer than he gets credit for. Not someone that I'm like, ooh, rah, but at his price point, depending on where he qualifies, and that's another guy where when he qualifies well, I'm out. When he qualifies poorly, I'm in, right? So to your point, I'm with you. Qualifying is going to be qualifying practice, especially with the extended times. It will not shock me, Sean, if we were to regroup on Saturday and you and I have like 50% new names.
Oh, totally, 100%. I think I can definitely be expecting something along those lines. And there's really a couple of other names that do carry my interest as well. I know this first name is a name that people are like, are you secretly a fan of this driver? Because I mention him each and every week pretty much.
Ooh,
Ryan Preece.
Oh, not the one I thought. But fair. I can dig it.
But he's actually scored place differential in so many different races, and he's never been a strong qualifier this year. And that's literally just the cheat code to getting points within a DFS lineup. You start a driver that you know can move up through the field, and Ryan Preece has done that countless times no matter what type of track it is. Now, I don't love him as much as, say, an oval track, but I do think he's someone in order to watch right there too. You did mention Zane Smith. I think he's someone we got to keep in mind as well. But if you did want to go really deep, I think you can keep an eye on, say, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., or even Riley Herbst. I think Riley's an interesting
Oh,
name to think about too.
see, the one I was going to go to, John Hunter Nemechek.
You see, that's another name that I think could also be in the conversation as well. But it really is going to be, for me to get in on John Hunter, I do want to see a little bit more data to be sure. And if he qualifies deep, then I'm definitely all in.
Because I always thought John Hunter did a great job on the road races in the Xfinity series. I really did. And it was just from a driving. At times he overdrove, driving too hard. But I guess maybe the reason I have him kind of earmarked, I don't think he's going to qualify well. They just have it as a team. When they've kind of held their position. You know, Jones, the same is for Jones, right? But if you were to ask me who I thought was an actual better road racer, I'd have to give a slight nod to John Hunter over probably Eric Jones, definitely Ricky, probably Zane Smith. Now, that does not mean, to your point, that we should use him. If he qualifies 15th, I don't want any action on that, okay?
No.
But let's say Riley Hurst, Stenhouse, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, and Zane Smith all qualify, say, 28 through 32. I probably would lean John Hunter out of that group if you really pressed me on it.
I think John Hunter's still not the worst call you could make within that group. He's somebody that I think just misses that group for me. Like, he's close to that group, but is not 100% quite there yet for me until I see
I think that's
a little
fair.
bit more. But I do think, though, that I don't think we should fade him out entirely from our minds this week.
No, and this goes back to your whole point before, qualifying, practice times. This is all going to matter. If Zane Smith is in the top 10 on averages and qualifies 30th, it's going to be really difficult to not use him. If Eric Jones qualifies 28th and is top 15 in practice times, I'll be frank, it's going to be tough not to use him because he's improved really even from practice times, right? I mean, I don't know if it's Eric or the crew chief, but I feel like they collectively as a tandem have done an excellent job keeping up with the track and changes. They always seem to just be sneaking into that top 15, top 20 area on a regular basis, not just once in a while. Like, it's been pretty regular. We see that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Really, I think it'd be easier just to name the names that I'm not so sure about this week for me. Really, that would be like Austin Dillon, Justin Haley, or somebody else like Josh Berry, who's been very finicky at the road course events.
And I'll add Catherine Lake to it.
Yeah, I don't think that's out of the question either, but that I could be swung away from that too if she does look promising enough for the price.
Her price is so low that I'm going to change my article and not have her listed as a fade, because you brought up a great point. Her background is road racing. As long as the car stays together, right? Because we're talking about the elevation and stuff. Her price point is so low, and I do not expect qualifying speed to be there. If she starts 33rd, it might be worth a gamble, Sean. I mean, the price is so low. And honestly, Ty Dillon and Cody Ware's prices are so low. I don't know that I can rule them out. Cody Ware has shocked me at times, and I don't know that I want to count on it. But Sean, when we're talking 5K or 5,100, like, do you realize this? But do other folks realize what kind of ability that gives you for the other 5 drivers?
It gives you so much cap flexibility when you do something like that. And for me, if you mention Ty Dillon, Cody Ware, and Catherine Legg, just give me Ty Dillon all day but he is by far much better equipment than the other two.
100%.
That is really just sneaky to use Ty Dillon right there. And he has actually gotten place differential on these kinds of races before too. And road racing is not his biggest strong suit either. So he may not be the best qualifier either too.
He may be the sneaky one of the bunch, Sean. I mean, his price point is so low. Like, I didn't list him anywhere, but I think you're onto something there, man. I forgot because I knew he had picked up the place differential at the other tracks. I forgot that when we went to Coda, he actually looked, I don't want to say good, but he kind of did.
there's also one other tiny important point that we're not mentioning about Ty Dillon that can really help swing the opinion here. His teammate is AJ Allmendinger. Enough said.
Oh, snap. I forgot about that. We better put Ty Dillon in that sleeper group, Sean. We better just add his name to the group because at that price point, as long as he qualifies 28th or further back, 25th or further back, I may just have to do a lineup because I want to use Ty Dillon, to be honest. At that, I mean, because he's what, 5,100 or 5,300?
He is no, he's 5,000, a flat 5K.
5,000. Yeah, because Catherine Lake's what, 48 or 4,900?
48 for leg, 49 for wear.
That's what I mean. The price point is so low, dude. I mean, it gives you like an extra body almost.
And then when you even go to FanDuel, I mean, Ty is just 2,500. He's the third cheapest driver there too.
You can load up with like 4 of the top 5 then.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hey, let's get into our core picks and our bets here, Sean, because I really want to go over your bets because I love them.
All right, so getting into the DFS core fours right here, I got Shane Van Gisbergen at 10,500 on DraftKings. He's 14,000 on FanDuel. AJ Allmendinger at 9,300 on DraftKings and 11,000 on FanDuel. Chris Buescher at 8,400 on DraftKings and 10,000 on FanDuel. And then I have Todd Gilliland, the Todd Father. Haven't said that in a while, at 6,700 on DraftKings and 5,800 on FanDuel.
Which I think the books are way off on him, by the way, his odds and pricing. I find it interesting that we both like him and the books really don't. Give me SVG. I'm on Willie B, man. Give me Byron, give me Buescher, and give me Hocevar. I would love to build a lineup with those 4 guys and try to make it work. And now that I know I could throw Ty Dillon in at $5,000, I'm pretty confident I can make it work and easily add probably Dinger to that list.
Oh yeah, truly. And for reference there, Carson Hocevar, I would take a shot at those odds right there too. He's 28-1 to win this weekend.
Right? I think that, in fact, I did list that as a long shot bet. I think I did. So
yep, you did.
I did. So I'm with you there, man.
And I will also say disrespectful for AJ Allmendinger for having him at 12-1 right there. He should at least be 10-1. So that's our core fours right there. Oh yeah, that's the DFS ones. You listed the betting ones. I didn't list my betting ones right there. Let me get.
No, I'm saying I didn't do my. Did I read the wrong ones? No, I didn't do my betting ones. Oh no, I did. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. But hit us with your bets there, Sean.
So Shane Van Gisbergen at plus 330. Even though that's more so just because I realistically think he can actually get it done rather than just liking the odds.
I'm with you.
But Christopher Bell also at plus 700, Tyler Reddick at plus 800, and AJ Allmendinger, as mentioned, is at 12-1 as one of my core 4 winner bets too.
So I'm with you on SVG. I do like him as a win. I hate those odds at 330. I think it's a little aggressive of the books, but I think people are going to be betting it. I do like William Byron. I know I'm a little bit higher on him. Give me Christopher Bell at 700. Bell and Byron are both around 700-800, depending on when you check. Reddick right there with you. And then I do love the long shot of Hocevar at 28 or 24, whatever it is to 1. I really do kind of like the Hocevar bet, especially like we're hitting that crescendo, man. You know what I mean? Like the speed's there. The finishes are starting to get there. He was right there this weekend. Like, dude, the wave is coming, bro. The wave is coming. So maybe we should. I'll talk to the wife. I may have her go put a bet in on Carson Hocevar tonight before the odds change.
Yeah, you know what? Not a bad idea.
We said don't bet these guys until practice. If you're going to take a shot, Dinger and Hocevar would be the guys to bet because if anybody's odds are going to come down, I would argue it's them. Coming down from 800 to 600, I will not be shocked if Hocevar goes from, say, plus 24, 2,800 to plus 12 or 1,400.
So just for reference there, Carson Hocevar is 14-1 right now to be the top Chevy of the race right now.
Oh, top Chevy.
Yeah. Something to consider right there, too. And you mentioned Dinger right there. He's plus 850 to be top Chevy as of right now.
And see, I could see after practice his odds dropping from 1,200 to 800.
Yeah, and keep in mind with Hocevar there, too, there's a lot of drivers that are have lower odds than he does, too. So that right there should already tell you that the books are not as heavy on him as we are.
Correct. True story. All right, hit us with, because I tailed your bets here. I'm going to tail your top bets here, but go ahead and hit us with your other bets here, Sean.
So I have a couple of top 10 bets right here. I've got Carson Hocevar top 10 at plus 110, Ty Gibbs top 10 at plus 130. I'd say if you're going to be betting on those two drivers to get a top 10, I'd do it now because I'm telling you, by the time practice and qualifying hits, they're going to be minus odds. Hit that now if you could. But this next one is probably not going to get minus odds. It's Todd Gilliland for a top 10 at plus 500 right there. I like that just because the fact of the matter is that Todd Gilliland is an underrated road racer, and he actually consistently finishes around that top 20 and top 15 range. I think he could be in the realm of possibility of getting a top 10 because he's also really the type of driver that can pick up on road course racing like that. And funny enough, he's another driver that you mentioned about young talent that went from truck straight to cup. Todd Gilliland is right one there too. So
yep, same team too. They both came from front row.
That's right. And then I have one more bet here. It's a group winner bet. I wasn't a big fan of most of the group winner bets so far, except for this one with DraftKings Group C winner. That's between Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, and Michael McDowell. Give me Chris Buescher at plus 250 right there.
I'm down. You know what, Sean? And I did say I'm 100% with Sean on Hocevar and Gibbs top 10 and second that. In fact, when we we get off here, Sean, I'm going to go into Discord and I'm going to post and add everyone bet for Hocevar or Dinger. Pick your poison. I'm leaning Hocevar in the longer odds and top 10 on Gibbs and Hocevar because I do want to make sure people get an opportunity to bet before the lines change, depending on when this drops, depending on when the article drops, and then practice. I am going to put that out there. That's not something we normally do, but we're going to try it this weekend, Sean, because when you and I overlap with strong conviction, we're not 100%, but we're better than 70%. So I'm going to throw that out there.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of fun bets that can be had this week, even if you want to be gutsy right now. Speaking of gutsy bets, I know you said that maybe I should start coming up with a gutsy bet of the week here. I'm just going to throw a wild one out there, but how about Todd Gilliland as the top Ford at 18-1?
Ooh, interesting. That is a ballsy bet right there.
Yeah, because I think his biggest competition for that would be Chris Buescher.
I would agree with you. And we all know that Buescher just finished his top 10. I mean, he just does.
Because the only other drivers that are above Gilliland, if you look on the price ladder for top Ford, is the three Penske drivers. Ryan Blaney, he's at plus 450, as is Austin Cindric, and then Logano's at plus 600. Then you go all the way down to Todd Gilliland at 18-1.
And I would say he's not that far behind those other groups on a road course. And he ran well this weekend at Michigan. Let's not lose sight of that. That Gilliland was back to Todd Gilliland form like we had been seeing, last year, where he was consistently in that top 10 hunt all the time. He was again this weekend, and it wasn't his fault that he got backed into the wall. So,
yeah, top 20 machine Todd Gilliland was last year for a good amount of the spring into the summer. We saw it right there. He had like a real crazy streak of top 20 finishes.
And some higher, right? I mean, he was pushing the envelope in some areas. So, well, Sean, I thought this was excellent. We had some great info for having zero data. So, and I find it interesting that you and I pulled some of the same data to try to approach this event. So that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. On behalf of everyone at fantasyguru.com and the Elite Plus Network, please head over to fantasyguru.com, click subscribe, check out a package, find one that's for you. If you like our content, the MVP package gets you covering all the racing stuff and everything but football and baseball. We have a lot of football content dropping. I'm going to be in and out of Discord as best I can just because I've got a ton. I've got like a 6,000 word article dropping later this week that I've got to get on. So There'll be tons of football. Sean's going to be super busy here in about a month when we have all our podcasts and everything. So bear with us with that, but we're going to try to get you some bets early and often. We've had pretty decent success when we push some early bets, Sean. So I feel like maybe we should ride that a little bit and see how it goes. And look, be sure to follow Sean on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at SeanE247. Don't follow me.
That's why your handle's not there, because you don't want people to follow you.
I don't, man. You want to go follow at Fantasy Bosco and get pissed off daily, mostly because I'm pissed off at the world all the time, then I'm a good follow for you. But if you just want the sports content, I am no longer a good follow for you. That's not what I've been doing on there. I just don't have the time or the patience. So don't. I'm a jerk. I'll openly admit it. So if you just don't want to know that about me, stick to this. We'll talk sports and we'll all be happy go lucky. So I'm not excited about this cost. I do want to mention this for an organization that gripes about cost and how bad it is. It's really stupid to force teams to drive up from Charlotte to Michigan, the most northern race we go to, by the way. No other racetrack is more north than where we go to in Michigan. To add a car, to put on a hauler, to drive all the way down to Mexico City. And if you aren't familiar with geography, Mexico City's not on the border. It's down quite a ways. So NASCAR, don't tell me you care about costs, because you just cost the teams a whole boatload of money that makes no sense when, I don't know, Sean, could we have done this race after Texas?
That would have been a pretty nice idea to have. I'll just say that much, because you know what? It would keep it in theme there, location-wise.
I don't know. Maybe we're just too stupid or simple-minded. I don't know. But on behalf of all of us, thank you for tuning in and joining. We truly appreciate all of you that do listen. We love the interaction in the Discord. Sean, you got any final thoughts for us, bro?
Well, I'm just hoping that overall the show this weekend is an interesting one, because it's not something we've seen before, and who knows if it's going to be good or bad. We'll find out, and I'm just going to try to help everybody win some money best I can. But, there's no guarantees, especially in auto racing, as you know.
Yeah. The only guarantee in auto racing is randomness and craziness. That's about it. Just like the guy, that poor guy, that the only dude had driven on a 410 on that track I went to, Sean, there in Menominee, Wisconsin, Red Cedar. The only guy had driven a 410 on that track back in 2006, by the way. Yeah, he got in the wall literally right in front of us and rolled all the way around the wall.
Wall riding at its best.
It was wall riding. And I kid you not, Sean, I was so close I could have touched the tire. He literally was right there. We didn't have good seats by racing standards, but hey, my goggles came in handy. My buddy made fun of me when we first got in the car, and then after the heat races, he goes, "I apologize for laughing about your goggles."
That's great.
So, on behalf of everyone at Fantasy Guru, thank you so much. This is the RaceGuru Thunder Hour. Until next time. Peace.